Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, the Roaring Twenties were a time of extravagance, wild living, and, at least on the surface, a spirit of pompous prosperity in American life. Now, hindsight causes us to look on the 20s cautiously, since we know the crash that followed in the 1930s. At the level of the presidency, though, the man who governed the nation during the majority of this raucous decade seemed to be the exact opposite of the spirit of the age. He was calm, he was calculated, cool under fire, and almost aloof in his quietness. But perhaps his quiet strength was just what the nation needed for checks and balances during such a loud time. He was the 30th President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge. Coolidge was born in 1872 in Vermont. He grew up and entered the legal practice, which, like so many of his forebears, allowed him access into politics. He made a name for himself as a foundational Republican, deeply connected to his conservative moral roots. He was a humble man through and through, and this humility was certainly evident in his presidency, even in the very beginning when he found out that Warren Harding, whom he was serving as vice president, had died. Coolidge's swearing-in ceremony was a simple affair where his father, who was a licensed notary, swore him into the presidency that very night with the son's hand on the family's Bible. Now, Coolidge was a man of few words, which made the little he did speak carry great weight. He took somewhat of a hands-off approach to his governance, and, there's a lot to be said for this type of government, especially considering all the lessons that we can learn when governments tend to stick their hands into places where they don't belong. You don't have to look long through history to know that. Coolidge was not afraid to step back or not get involved at all in certain affairs where he felt the government simply didn't belong. Now, his popularity remained high throughout his presidency as he won his 1924 re-election bid. Some historians believe he could have run and won again in 1928, but he voluntarily chose to step down. Just another example of his humility. Now, one charming anecdote from his life involves a dinner he was attending with his wife, where an attendee made a wager with him that she could make him say at least 3 words to her. Coolidge replied calmly, "You lose." Coolidge lived to see the nation plunge into the Great Depression before his death in 1933. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.